Salve, and welcome back to 15 with Fosca, the podcast. My guest today is Amira Makhlouf, mentor, resilience coach, author, and founder of Extraordinary Speakers. Stay right where you are to hear Amira's powerful story and discover how you can support her ongoing efforts to uplift women worldwide. Grazie mille e buon ascolto. Buongiorno, mondo, and welcome back to 15 with Fosca, the podcast. I could not be happier to have as my guest with me today, Amira Makhlouf, who is the founder of Extraordinary Speakers, an entrepreneur, an author, an international award-winning speaker, as well as a resilience and life coach. Welcome, Amira. Benvenuta.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Wonderful. Great.
I'm so glad.
Excellent.
I'm so glad to have you here. And I'm so happy to be talking today with you about your story and also about the important work that you do here in Italy. I usually like to start the podcast by asking my guests to talk a little bit about their journey to Italy. And so I'm hoping that you will share your story with us, Amira.
Yes, thank you so much, Tasca, for this beautiful introduction. Italy for me is a home. Is a home away from home. I do feel at home here. It took me a long time to feel at home here. It's not an easy place to be, and yet it is a place that helped me come back to myself. It took me a long time, many years, but I have experienced here personal growth and a true renaissance. We are in the land of renaissance.
We really are.
Yes.
Amira, so how long have you been here?
In Italy, I've been for 20 years.
Okay.
Yes.
And why did you come here in the first place, and where are you from?
Yes, I'm originally Palestinian. I'm Palestinian, I'm from Haifa. I left my country 30 years ago. I lived in the States. I lived in Cyprus. I lived in London. I lived in many places. I left my homeland with the idea of no return. I had to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously I followed other people's path. Other men, other people who took me on a different journey. And my story with Italy started when I was in the States. I used to work as a buyer for a company. I used to come to Milan to buy interior design. And I had this idea, the thought of, one day I would like to live in Italy.
Ah, nice.
Yes. And I met my ex-husband abroad. I couldn't go back to the States because my green card expired. And I met a man, was Italian. He's my ex-husband. And
I have one of those
I ended
too.
up in Italy. Yes. It's a true story.
Isn't it funny how, you and I have known each other for a while now.
Yes.
And I knew part of your story. But it's always funny that when I sit down here with my guests, all of these, as I say, these juicy pieces, come out. And so you've been in Italy now for a long time, and you do feel that it's your home.
Yes.
And I think something that you've done, which is, you do a lot of things that impress me, Amira. But we were just talking even a few moments ago, and I'd like to actually just sort of segue right into that. We were talking about community and what you do. Let's begin with talking about the community building you do in Siena for the expat community. And then I'd like to move to what you do globally, if that's all right.
Yeah. I strongly believe in community. When I came to Siena, I searched for a family. I wanted to have a family. I said, well, I will create a family before having my son. So I started gathering people and experts who came to Siena. I created this WhatsApp group, simple, and it grew. Now we're 200 women from different nationalities, different different backgrounds, and so it became a proper community. So I strongly believe in community. I think we need each other. Many people come to Italy and they look for a home, they look for a family. Many people leave behind stories, jobs, families, husbands, a previous life, let's say, and start new in Siena. And this community, I decided I wanted to do something selflessly, like giving back to life and helping people feel at home. And this is what we do. We create events so people connect. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I don't even see them anymore because they connect and they create other communities, and which is a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. And you're doing a really great job at it. And I think that you've taken community to a new level with your project, which I'd really like to talk about. It's huge. It's incredibly important. It's called Extraordinary Speakers. And I want you to talk specifically about it. It's an incredibly inspiring project to me personally, and I think to everyone who's around you, because it really it sort of exemplifies everything that you are. You're somebody who really practices what she preaches, and you're bringing that notion of community, but really it's the notion of it takes a village, and you're bringing it to this immense scale with this huge project of Extraordinary Speakers. Can you talk a little more about it? Yes. What is it?
Yes.
Talk to us.
Yes. Well, Extraordinary Speakers is an organization. It is more than an organization, it's a movement. I strongly believe it is a movement. I believe that women, we all have stories. We all have stories. And to inspire other people, you need to share a story. A story creates an intimacy. When I started speaking in Europe, and my first conference was in Paris, and I was coaching people, I was a coach, I had tools, I knew how to deal with difficulties, and I was surrounded by 80 speakers from different parts of the world. Women, like when they spoke, they shook the stage.
Oh, yeah.
Women with important stories, and they inspired me so much. I was going through a difficult period of my life, and I said, you know what? I will create this movement. I don't say it's easy.
No, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. It's possible. So what I do is I create live events around the world to inspire others by bringing people who have been there, people who have done a certain, have walked a certain path.
Yeah.
They have their breakthroughs. They can share real tools. You can teach people from books, but you definitely inspire people if you have been there. I have been there, and many people have, and especially during this period of a post-pandemic, a period where you have so many conflicts around the world, and women are suffering from so many mental health issues. We need people with stories. Yeah. So this is the movement, actually. So this is what I do. I create these events and putting them together and bringing speakers who really, and not only, therapists, coaches, psychologists, psychiatrists, we all have stories. And so, yes, it is really inspiring for me. It is challenging sometimes, but it is definitely inspiring for the audience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I want to talk about your upcoming event, because you're in the midst of organizing a huge event that's going to be taking place in Florence in just a little, over a week. And I want you to talk more about that, what the goal is, and also sort of what we can do, all of us, to sort of help further your mission. I think something that I've always admired about you is how much service to others is at the core of everything you do.
Yes.
And I try very hard to emulate that behavior in my life as well. But I think you really take it to a very different level. And so I really want to give space to this upcoming conference, what you hope to gain from it and to give to the members of the audience. And if you could just tell us all if there's anything we can do to help further your cause.
Well, the event is going to be in the 1st of March in Hotel Baglioni It's a very important structure in Florence, in the center of Florence, and we're having different speakers from around the world, mainly women.
Wonderful.
Who have really inspiring stories to share, and also tools. And the topic of the event is From the Front Door to the Top Floor, Empowering the Next Generation of Female Leaders. I want to talk to young leaders. I want to talk to women activists, women who are looking for their life purpose, women who are facing challenges, women who want inspiration, women who are suffering from mental health issues, and sometimes we just hide behind, like a beautiful facade. But we all in this life, we need inspiration, we need tools. So I'm bringing all these speakers together, and so it's going to be a full day of activities, full day of speeches, workshops. I am really excited about it. This is the second edition, actually, of Florence. I saw the success of Florence 2 years ago, and speakers also loved that. So it is an opportunity for speakers, it is an opportunity for audience to really get, to fill their cup with tools and instruments and hear stories of people who have been there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question, because you spoke about the importance of a conference like this, especially right now.
Yes.
Tell me more about that. Beyond, I think I see exactly what you're saying. I think a lot of us, especially a lot of women of all ages, often we are carrying a lot. And we do tend to put up a facade of yes. Everything is actually perfect. Yes. But when a lot of women get together in a space like that, stories do come out.
Yes.
Why is it so important right now that you're doing this conference?
Yes. Consider that after the pandemic, things has changed. Yeah. I strongly believe in the human connection. Mm-hmm. I don't do virtual events. I believe in networking. This is the first thing. Yeah. I believe in meeting people in person. Yeah. I think it's very, very important. We need to ask people questions. Can you just tell me where you've been and what can I do? And the human contact is so important. We are going through a period of uncertainty with what is happening in the world on a global scale. I look at elections, I look at conflict, and people need to hear from people who have been there. I have learned, I would say, the hard way to deal with uncertainty. Yeah. I have faced, because I come from a war zone, I come from Palestine, I lived through war, I went through hardships. I can be great examples, and many other people, many other speakers can be an example for so many women. So the importance of building a movement like that, it is inspiring. And sharing tools, instruments. You will find at the conference, you will find authors who wrote important books about victimhood, about anxiety, how to deal with anxiety from people who are really, therapists who are really specialized. So I think it's important to come and participate and be there, because I think your physical presence in a conference like that can really change your life. Yeah,
I agree. And actually, as you were talking about it, I tend to have a very visual mind, and I saw sort of the whole room full, and sort of the way those moments can be extremely transformative. As I've already mentioned, something does, some magic happens. Yes. When you put that many storytellers together, and that yes. many people that have so much to give. I want to go back to a word that you use a lot, and that's resilience.
Yes.
And also because you, among the many, 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 many things that you do, and we'll get back to those in a second, but you are also a resilience coach.
Yes.
And something that you've been repeating since we started our conversation about the conference is really how you are doing this because you want people to hear and be inspired by stories.
Yes.
Talk to me about resilience and what role that plays in your life.
Yes.
And in your work, and in this conference in particular.
Yeah, I always say there are many levels of resilience. We do not, as humans, we do not break, we bend. It's very interesting because I watched my life as an example, moving from Palestine and having in mind only one idea is to succeed. I knew I was going to face challenges. I didn't know that they were going to be real challenges. Living as a homeless, living without food, living without documents, living without immigration papers. And it helped me expand something within myself. It's like your soul expands, your identity, it becomes a very interesting connection also with my higher self, and you become resilient. Nothing can shake me anymore. It's very interesting because you go through so many storms. I've been through so many storms. Like, okay, let's do that. Sometimes people get scared. I mean, I have lived so much hardship that my level of resilience is so high. Mm-hmm. And when I coach people, sometimes I hear people, who have startups, they start their own business and their fear, and obviously fear, I look at fear. I know what fear is. I have been there. I say, well, talk to me. So helping people, putting the fear in the pocket and move through life, it helps you build a level of a very strange level of resilience that nothing shakes you anymore. So I built my coaching business also around this word resilience coaching, because resilience for me, it's part of life. Mm-hmm. We all must get there. Mm-hmm. You have to build that. If you want to have a business,
absolutely,
you must build that first. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, work for someone else.
Absolutely, yes. No. It's a fundamental part. You've expressed it in a very powerful way that I don't think is necessarily relatable for all of us. No. And a lot of people are lucky and really don't suffer through their lives. There's a level of suffering.
Yes.
I think it's not like I don't want to say that there are different levels of suffering, but I think resilience is really something that you only locate inside yourself when you really, really think that there's no other way up. And yes. I don't know, it's just, I can't explain it either. It's something that I think when you get to a certain point in your life and when you've had, let's say, a variety of experiences that have made you who you are, yeah. Resilience is usually somewhere playing a very important role in that, and then there's self-preservation and all sorts of other things. I want to talk about the work that you do. You mentioned the resilience coaching.
Yes.
I said very early in the podcast that you do so many things.
Yes.
Can you talk a little more about what? Amira, do you sleep?
Well, sometimes I get asked this question. For me, the most important thing is sleep. It's more than food.
I agree.
Yes.
I do.
I must sleep.
Me too.
Yes, but sometimes I sleep, like I go to bed at 8. and sometimes I wake up at 3. And yesterday I had a call with Australia at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
I work with different continents. I interview speakers from different parts of the world. So I must sleep. But I knew leading a movement like that takes work. It takes hard work. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you must work and work hard. Things don't come, I don't know, I've never heard of someone like things come easy. They don't. Because with this organization, I have also expanded my identity. I became bigger than myself because I grew with the company. And it takes a high level of resilience. Like some things don't work sometimes.
Oh, yeah, a lot of things don't work, yeah.
Many things don't work, and then you face challenges, and how do I face that? But then, who am I? It's really, so you become beyond yourself.
Yeah, this is bigger than Amira.
Yes, this is bigger.
And I think that kind of thing gives you a lot of strength.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
Because I'm sure there are days where you are thinking, what? I mean...
Yes, I cry sometimes.
Right? Oh, yeah, I'm sure you do.
Yes.
I mean, it's a lot. And I think that you've taken it upon yourself
yes.
to do something so
yes.
incredible.
Yes.
Can feel at times probably a little daunting. It can feel like a lot, but
yes.
there's nothing that fills you up the way work like this fills you up. Am I right?
Yes. Yes. It's because I get my direct connection. I always say it's vertical with the divine. I get my strength from there. We have a great conversation sometimes, and I ask for help. I ask for strength because sometimes I get tired. But my purpose and why I'm here is beyond being tired, beyond fear, beyond life, because it serves people.
Yeah.
And when I feel it's a huge satisfaction, it's not about me.
No, and that's why I think you can keep going, because
yes.
it's the enormity of it, and knowing that every little seed you plant
yes.
is actually having a huge impact on people. And I want to go back a sec to your charity work,
yes.
because we haven't really talked about it, and it's something that ever since it was actually I think I heard about your work before I even met you.
Yeah.
And I would like for you to tell my listeners specifically about the projects that you're involved in all over the world, what you are doing, and how people who are listening can lend a hand. I think, a lot of us do get bogged down by our daily lives, and we tend to think, oh, I don't have time for this, or I don't have time for that. We do have time, and that's coming from somebody who doesn't have a lot of time. If you make time, if something's important to you, you do it. So what can those of us who are sitting and listening to me preaching here, who really don't have the time, is there something concrete that they can do to help you, Amira? Tell us about your projects out in the world and what we can do to help you.
Yes, one of the projects that I'm doing is I'm working with Uganda, mm-hmm. women in Uganda, and many ask me why Uganda, and it's important that to explain to people why Uganda, because Uganda women remind me of myself, remind me of all the struggles that I have been through. You're talking about the community, many of the women who are there, some have AIDS, some women who have been abused, they live in the bush. Yeah. And how it started, one day I wrote on my website, I'm going to have a conference in Africa. I didn't know where Africa was, where Uganda was. And I thought about Kenya. And then I was contacted. I was on a webinar, and the lady said, would you like to do a conference in Uganda? So I started learning about these women and meeting these women every Saturday. So this is how the project started, and I started learning about the necessity. So I saw women who have broken identities, low self-image, poor women financially, resilient women, and women who need help, women who have been abused by their husbands, and all this reminded me truly of myself and also of women who I work with. So I decided I want to dedicate part of my life to do something for these women. I started learning about what they need. So I started with the project sending sewing machines to help women sew the sanitary pads for the girls so they can go to school, because plastic and sanitary pads are expensive. And because some of them at the age of 13, they wait for a husband, they stop going to school because of their period. And also teaching women a skill. Yeah. I strongly believe that you can send people resources, and I do that. I raise funds, but you need to help people become resourceful.
Empowered.
Yes,
really
because
empowered.
They need to learn a skill. And sometimes I check on these women and they say that they have learned a skill.
Yeah.
For the first time, they learn how to sew a dress, an apron, something.
Right.
Because what the jobs that they have there, some of them they do liquid soaps, jelly for healing. My dream is to create a school for skills, but it will come. So this is one of the projects that I'm working on, and it is working.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And so going back to your questions, we need more donations. We need people to be part of the movement, because many things, honestly, I do myself. I am looking for a partner for extraordinary speakers, someone who is really heart-centered, to help me lead this movement and change women's lives. So yes, and I will continue working with these women, and it gives me a huge satisfaction.
Well, thank goodness there are people like you who are doing this, because
Yes.
I think a lot of us tend to, the world is a very complicated place right now, and a lot of people have a hard time even just getting through their daily lives, and it's hard to think about sometimes that world beyond our already complicated immediate world.
Yes.
Yet what I think a lot of people don't realize is that sometimes when you do something that's selfless, and that it's really virtuous, Amira, and I'm not saying this gratuitously. I truly believe in that, and I think that's why you're sort of lifted along.
Yes.
That's why you can carry the weight, because of the sort of the greater noble purpose of this, which is really a vocation.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story.
Please.
It's just a short story about why I started doing this charity work, and this is not the first charity event I do. When I was living in the States and I was left with nothing, I was in the church, New Thought Unity Church, gave me a place to stay.
Where were you?
I was in Cincinnati, Ohio.
In Cincinnati, I've never been to Ohio.
Yes, I lived in Ohio, and I didn't work. I didn't have a job. And I was working in the street, and my idea was I wanted, back then, with $0.25 you could buy something. And I was wishing to find $0.25 in the street, and I found $0.25. And then after a while, I like a beggar found me and said, "Oh, do you have a quarter, ma'am?" And I gave him my $0.25. And after maybe, I think, 2 days, a friend of mine knocked on my door and handed me $500 that I given her many, many years before, when I had money. And in that moment, something hit me. And I thought about two things. The first thing is that you get what you look for.
Yeah.
And the other thing, which is a very important lesson, is giving.
Yeah.
I gave the only thing that I had in that moment, it was a quarter, and I strongly believe in the power of giving. And I strongly believe when we give more, we become more.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I saw that beggar, but I felt that I was richer, I was abundant, even though I had no place to, but I had more than him, and I gave that with the trust that something is gonna happen and my life is going to change.
Mm-hmm.
And it has changed then.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided, I made a promise to God, I will do a work in the world that will change people's lives. I don't say that I am a millionaire. I don't say, it takes a hard work for me. I stand in front of life every single day. And I say to myself, I win. Every single day. I hear people sometimes who say, oh, we can donate, we can help, but sometimes with so little, we can change other people's life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm getting a little emotional because I really I believe it, and the way you say it is incredibly powerful. The story you told is not a little story. I think it's an example of the kind of openness and generosity we should all have on the daily, and I think that we've lost.
Yes.
And when you were talking earlier about why this conference, but not only the conference, but why it's so necessary in this moment in time to be kind again,
Yes.
to be generous,
Yes.
to realize that others are suffering, and to
Yes.
recognize that we have the power
Yes.
to affect change.
Yeah.
And I'm really so happy that you brought this up, and it's so simple.
Yeah.
People think it's so overwhelming and that you have to do so much, and sometimes it really is just as much as a gesture or asking someone how they're doing or showing somebody compassion or empathy.
Yeah. I strongly believe when I talk about leadership, I talk about we must lead from the heart.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you do.
Yes, I mean, it's not about us.
No.
And then you will realize that we are all connected.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I do for you, you do for me,
Right.
and we do it for the one, and we are all part of the one.
Mm-hmm.
And I also understand people because I have this compassionate heart. I understand where people are. Many times I ask friends of mine, how are you? And they say, I am evolving. Yes, I mean, we are all evolving towards the better version of ourselves.
Hopefully.
It takes time.
Hopefully.
It takes time.
It does take time.
I mean, I'll be 50 in a few days. It takes time. It took me a long time to understand. I don't know if I understood life, something I did, but it takes time.
Yeah.
It's a complex journey.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm glad you phrased it that way. I'm kind of obsessed with the idea of evolving,
Yes.
personal evolution. I'm very similar to you in a lot of ways and very high energy, and I try to do a lot, and people think I'm crazy, but it's bigger than us.
Yes.
And I think once you realize that it's exactly what you were saying before, there's a simplicity and a lightness in that as well, because we should all be sharing this.
Yes.
Not as a burden, as sort of and not even as a duty or a responsibility. It should be normalized.
Yes.
And you're normalizing it, and I love that.
Yes. Yes.
I want to talk about I'm extraordinary.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about I'm extraordinary?
Yes, I like the word extraordinary because sometimes describing myself and what I have been through, and I always say it has been a hard journey. I can't ignore that. And in the extraordinary, the symbol that I use in my workshop is the cactus.
Yeah.
And I was inspired in Sicily with this beautiful image of cactus with a beautiful flower. And how could you describe it? It is extraordinary.
They're beautiful.
It is. It is extraordinary. With the hardship and yes, and the sun and the dryness and resilience.
The beautiful flowers,
Yes.
the sweet nectar.
I know. In Arabic, they say sabr, which is how you say when you just I don't say suffering, but just wait. You have to wait.
Mm-hmm.
This wait of things will change. Things will you will overcome. Difficulties. And extraordinary program is 11 steps towards an extraordinary life.
Huh.
It are the steps that I took to change my life, and what does it really take, and what takes leaders to lead important companies. You need to have certain level of resilience. You need to understand where you are, the connection, the giving, to understand your goals and where you are in life, to create a map. There's so many things we do, and so this is the whole program. It's a coaching program. So I do group work, I do leadership work, I do personal coaching, and obviously the extraordinary speakers. That's how the name developed from my program, because I think people who have been there, they are extraordinary, because life is extraordinary, because we were born extraordinary, but something happens along the way. We learn to be something else, and then we take off everything that we have, and then we go back to be the extraordinary version
Of ourselves,
of
ideally,
ourselves.
right?
Yes, ideally. It takes a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
It takes every single day work. I work on myself every day.
Yeah.
I never leave home before working on myself. Yeah.
I think to be able to do the kind of work that you're doing, whether that be the work you do on, sort of a daily basis with your clients, et cetera, but also the bigger work you do, the work that's having these important, resounding impacts the world over. You have to, it's sort of like, the example of when you're on a plane, they always say, before you help your children or, somebody who needs your help, put on your mask first, okay? Your oxygen mask. And I think about that a lot lately.
Yeah.
I think as people who often give of their time and of their whatever, it can feel at times like,
Yes.
we put on the oxygen mask and then we can go out and help, affect these changes. I'm curious to know, and we're sort of coming to the tail end of the podcast, and I want to be sure to ask you a couple of more questions. But as we're talking, I do have something that I'm curious about, which is in your work, whether that be coaching specifically, I'm interested in, whether it be with your private clients or with corporations, et cetera. What are you seeing as people who are coming to you? What are their concerns right now? Can you speak a little in a very general way? Obviously,
Yes.
I'm sure you're seeing some commonalities.
Yes.
So what are people who are seeking you out?
Yeah.
What are they? How are they trying to evolve?
Yeah. Well, mainly the problems most women face: fear and dealing with uncertainty.
Mm.
I think this is the human, the most difficult part, I think, that people face in a daily life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where are they going?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also finding their life purpose.
Yeah.
Most people don't know why they're here
Mm-hmm.
and why they do what they do. And obviously we talk about that. And talking about childhood traumas,
Mm-hmm.
we carry lots of baggage,
Mm-hmm.
lots of, we carry many wounds from the past. I had to release so many wounds from the past. We carry some of our parents' wounds, even our teachers, our society.
Absolutely.
So we carry so much, and living up to obviously society standard, I created my own standard.
Good for you.
Yes.
If not, it's actually kind of it becomes very difficult.
Yeah.
You always feel like you're drowning, or you're failing, and it's something that I think, is fundamental. There are a couple of things that really strike me about the work that you do. One is the intergenerationality and internationality of it.
Yes.
Women together from all over the world, from all different backgrounds, having conversations, helping each other.
Yes.
Through these experiences. This is not something our generation of women grew up with.
Yes.
I'm not saying we were pitted against each other or anything. I never felt that way. I've always been a very strong ally of women. I've never had any of that sort of, I never saw a need for that, right? But also I realize now that I'm a little older than you are, that how much of everything I've internalized and how hard it is to shed it. And I think that's, a constant battle for women our age, and also I'm going to say even younger, because we have not been taught to have these conversations. We have not been taught how to help each other. The older women, for example, someone my age, I have a lot of friends who are younger, and I love the fact that they come to me and ask me how to reconcile motherhood with a demanding career, or they're struggling with having children. They don't know if they can have children and achieve what they want to. It's so important that we're having these conversations, Amira, and that we're finally, it makes us better leaders, but it makes us better friends. It makes us better moms. It makes us better people in general, I think, when we have all of these voices coming together to really empower us in a very real way. And I want, as we come to the end, I have just two final questions. One is more of a comment on something that I read on your website, which is that at the heart of everything you do is this desire to free women from their cages.
Yes.
This is such an incredibly powerful image that gives me the chills. So I would like you to comment on that a second, because you say that you identify yourself as that woman who was in a cage. Am I right?
Yes.
I have the chills, Amira. I just would like for you to talk about that for a second.
Here we're talking about different cages. Mm-hmm. We talk about psychological cage, emotional cage, financial cage. Many women live in cages. Many men as well, but we were talking specifically about women. I lived in a gilded cage as well. I know how it feels to be trapped. I know how it feels to be somewhere where you do not belong, where you have the capacity, but you can't see no way out. It took me a while to find my way out and free myself. And I think, and I strongly believe, we can help other women, even by little things, even by mentoring a woman.
Absolutely.
Yeah, by mentoring a young woman, like I do sometimes selflessly. I mentor women in Malawi to help them free themselves, even from the idea of some of them, they feel trapped with their families. They feel also about their sexuality. I coach them, and so I think also by coaching women, you free people, free women from the cage, and also extraordinary speakers. It is actually a way of sharing stories. When you share stories, I hear stories, I interview speakers from different parts of the world. I hear incredible women leaders who lead important companies, who suffer, who have incredible stories. But by sharing stories, you free women. And I think this is a very important movement. It's really beyond myself and beyond life, yeah.
I can't think of a better way to end the podcast because you've managed to synthesize perfectly the whole point of your work, your life's work, and just how fundamental it is that we all listen to each other and learn from each other. I think there's something about that storytelling that when you're sitting next to somebody or you're listening to them and you hear how much they've overcome and how much they've done, you really feel empowered. You feel, okay, wait, I can do this. Amira did it, or whoever did it. Okay, maybe, I can do it too.
Yes.
Final question. What's next for you, Amira?
Okay, well, what's next?
If you can talk about it,
yes.
I don't know.
Yes, well, I have, in September, I have a retreat coming for leaders. I'm doing it with another speakers and a colleague. Her name is Catherine Molloy, and we're doing a retreat in Tuscany from the 9th until the 13th of September.
Wonderful.
So leaders from different parts of the world. We have workshops. So we will be having also a panel discussion. We'll have different leaders from Tuscany, and many expats who live here, who are great leaders, can participate. Yeah, and obviously is to continue my work and expand my work in Uganda and lead extraordinary speakers to newer horizons and reach other continents.
Yes. I have no doubt that you're going to be able to do it, and we'll put all of your information in the show notes. Anyone who wants to help out, follow, attend, you'll be able to find all the information there. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
I have no doubt that you are going to bring extraordinary speakers to an even more extraordinary level, if that's possible.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Grazie.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a joy. It's been a joy. Grazie.
Grazie.
Thank you to Amira Makhlouf for being such an incredible guest, and to my listeners for tuning in. Please be sure to check out the show notes for more information about Amira, the upcoming Extraordinary Speakers Conference, and the many ways you can help her with her mission to empower women and amplify voices. Thanks again, grazie mille, e alla prossima volta.